start? So I left off talking about elementary school. I was going to multiple schools all the way up until 5th grade, where I went to school in Miami. After that year, I returned back to Jacksonville. That's when I went into middle school. Now I would say that my middle school years is where things got kind of rocky. That's where I began to meet up with a lot of the people I would hang with, and that's when I became very troublesome. That's when I believe I got kind of out of hand with my family, and they began to try to devise plans of how they would chastise me or how to get me back in order, because at this point I became, I would say, somewhat of a thief. I began to steal. I began to hang with the wrong people, fighting, things of that sort. Now at this point I wasn't really doing drugs, but I was like skipping school, and I was just hanging with the wrong crowd. Now as I say, as I moved further towards, and this is when I started doing rapping, and they did not like my raps because they were pretty much like gangster rapping. I was rapping about the things that young people rap about, killing and drugs and things of that sort. But that's why I first began rapping, and we had a little rap group. We had our own little rap group beef, things of that sort. Nothing I would say too major, but for my family, it was like they could see I was going in the wrong direction. So it became a really big deal to them to try to get me back in alignment. And like I say, I had fell a few times, so they were trying to chastise me to get me back in order when it comes to school. So at that time in my life is where I received, I would say, a lot of what I feel like the rejection. And most of it came from family that was genuinely trying to look out for me. It was just the way that they went about doing it. So, I don't know, it feels like something in my eye. So what they would do is they would come together and they would try to come up with exercises for me to do. Like doing push-ups, doing a little wall sits, and they would whoop me. They would beat me, and they would spend hours doing this and chastising me in that way, making me exercise, and whenever I would get tired, they would whoop me. And to me, it was like abuse, but like I say, I was a very bad child, and I guess they was trying to break me. So I would say it did break me, but it didn't break me in the right way, because I didn't really feel the love in it. So what it did was it caused me to rebel a lot more. Around that time of my life, I ran away, and I continued to kind of be rebellious. But also on the other side, I would get sent to my dad's house, and like I say, he would drink a lot. So a lot of times my dad would he would chastise me, and he would actually talk to me when he was sober. But then in the same day, he would get drunk, and then he would come. He would wake me up out my sleep. He would like flip the couch over. He would be trying to fight me, and just kind of scaring me up, and just being very aggressive towards me. And I didn't feel the love in that either. But so what it did was it still continued to harden my heart. So I continued in my rebellious ways. Like I say, when I got into 9th grade, I dropped out of school. I started hanging with the wrong people. That's when I started stealing. I've been in situations where we've skipping school, drinking. Of course, like I say, I was rapping in, just doing childish things, stealing things. But that's kind of where it took a turn. After I left out of high school, like I say, basically dropped out. Like I say, I went to FSCJ, and that's where all the drugs started. That's when I became a pothead, and that's when I began to want to pop pills. That's when I began to want to just escape life. And of course, a lot of the influences was the music I was listening to, because I was real big on Tupac. I would listen to Soulja Slim. We listened to people like BG and you know, just the rappers of that time and that day. I would listen to it, and it would influence my mind a lot. And I felt like I was a rebel. I felt like I was an outlawed from my family. Nobody understood me. And in that time in my life, I embraced the streets. So I was a street runner. On top of me doing drugs at school and not really getting my education, when I went home, I was always looking to how to hit a lick and make some money. I was what I called hard times. That's when, you know, sexual promiscuity went to a high. Of course, I was addicted to porn. Of course, I was, you know, me and my brothers or my close friends, we would like get on chat lines and try to hook up with women and things of that sort. But at that time, all my life was about was fueling my desires, fueling my flesh, and most of my desire really was just to be high and escape life. So whatever I could do to make enough money to get some drugs, to get some drink, to get whatever it was to get high enough to try to escape the guilt. Because once again, I had a lot of guilt in my heart, because at that point in time in my life, to advance, I was cutthroat. I would steal from the people closest to me. People I called my brother, my actual brother. I would manipulate my sister. I would steal out of my mom's purse. Whatever her boyfriends, I would steal from them. At that time in my life, she had a boyfriend that was in the streets as well, and I would smoke with him. But then deep down, I hated him. I didn't like him. I had dreams of trying to murder him because he was doing things to my mom that I didn't like, and it was just a very hard time in my life. And then the people that I hung out with in the streets, it was because I couldn't look my family in the face. So I'd rather be outside of the house. I'd rather be out there in the streets. I'd rather be running the streets day and night and hanging with people that I knew deep down did not really have my best interests at heart. But it wasn't until I gave my life to Christ that fully came to the surface. So for years I lived a life of guilt, shame, hiding my face, and just screwing over the people around me. So that speaks a little bit of when I grew into my teen years. And yeah, that's that promiscuity. But you know, babe, do you have anything as far as like your teen years that you could think of that you might want to share? No. Yeah. So yeah, as I continue to go further into like hanging out in the streets, I began to find different dumb ways of coming up on licks, and it was very petty things. So I would go to you know, do the little stupid petty theft at Walmart and return stuff, you know, fraudulent checks, stealing like AC units, things to pawn, and you know, things of that sort, trying to hit licks and steal things out of people's house. Now I never became real big at kicking in doors or anything like that, but it was just anything I could do to make some kind of money or to come up on something. And it caused you to be cutthroat, not care about how it affect anybody else. You're only thinking about yourself at that point in time. So what it did was it led me down a path of nobody trusting me. So if I was around, everybody was on their P's and Q's, because they like, hey, Frank be stealing, he'll take this, he'll take that. So I was known as a thief, and I'm not proud to say that. But what happened was I ended up doing something dumb when I hit 18. Somebody came to my house and they talked me into pawning something that they had stole. Now this was the one time that I didn't have anything to do with what was stole. But what I did do was I wanted the money, so I ended up pawning it for them because they said they didn't have the ID, which I was dumb. So I ended up pawning it for them. And what happened was, because they had my fingerprints, when it came back stolen, I ended up getting arrested for what was stolen. And the people that did it, I told a lie when I stood before the detective, because they came to me at my house. They came and got me, told me put on your shoes, took me around the corner to another scene where they were doing a shootout. They were getting ready to do a shootout, and I'm thinking like, okay, they think I got something to do with this. I'm sitting in the back of the car. This dude live around the corner from me. He gonna think I done snitched on him. I don't like this whole situation. But eventually they had the detective come get me. They took me downtown. They questioned me. I tried to make up some kind of lie that didn't work. So everything got pinned on me, and I got arrested for grand theft for what was pawned, because it was over a certain amount of money, and that was a felony on my record. So I was upset. When I got out, I went and tried to fight one of the dudes that instead of just snitching on him, I went and tried to fight him, because I'm like, you're all nonchalant about this, but I'm getting arrested for something you stole. But like I say, I was young, I was dumb, so I just drunk myself. I would drink and all that just until I had the court date, because I pretty much figured I was going to get some time. So I ended up going to jail. It wasn't for a long time. They was trying to give me 6 months to a year. I ended up doing 3 months at the P farm. And at that time, that's when I kind of slowed down enough to begin to read the Bible and to seek after God. Now, I would say this. At that point, I would say I was saved, but I was still cursing. I wasn't as saved as I thought I was. A lot of my mentality was the same, but I was thinking in my mind, hey, when I get out, life is going to be different, because I've been reading this Bible. But as soon as I got out, those same passions, they was waiting on me outside the door. So as soon as I left, the very dude I said I didn't like, I hated, he was waiting on me with some weed, and I went and smoked with him. And next thing I know, I was back to being a pothead, back to stealing, back to running the streets, back to the same life, sexual sin, just drowning in it. All of those same things that I was doing at that point. So my life didn't immediately change as I thought it would. And it took some time. I was 18 when I got arrested. I was 19 when I got saved. So it didn't take a very long time, but maybe about a year of doing the same stuff. But in the back of my mind, I knew who God was. I knew his word. I knew what he was asking of me. I knew what he desired of me. I just had not reached that place in my life where I had submitted to it. And there came a time, and it's crazy because me and my mom pretty much gave our life to the Lord around the same time. For some reason, I went to church with my mother. And I decided, she asked me if I wanted to go to church, and I decided to go with her that day. And I don't know why, but my grandma would always invite us to church. My grandma was the one praying for us. She was faithful to the Lord. I had even went to her church when I was younger and rebellious. One time, now I went to church with her multiple times, but this one time it made a big difference in my life, because I was called to the altar. They were talking about all the kids that were on MySpace. And back then I was on MySpace. I was rapping. I was doing all those, things like trying to holler at people on MySpace, all that stuff. So when they called us to the altar for MySpace, I came up to that altar because I felt the conviction at the time, and I wasn't even really saved. And I was pointed out in the crowd. It's like, hey, you, what's your name? Who you're here with? This is like, I see the calling of God in your life. You're going to preach the gospel, but you got a filthy mouth, and you got demons in your head. Now, that thing offended me. She said, you got demons in your head. You need to cut your hair, because God wants to clean you up, but he can't use you with that filthy mouth and those demons in your head. And man, I tell you, I felt the conviction, but then that conviction turned into offense, because I was like, they're judging me. Because I had pride in my hair. I wanted to grow dreads, and I had a little twist, and I was like, they're judging me. So because I was carnal, I didn't pick up on it as spiritual. So something in me was like, I feel like something she's saying is true. But like I say, when I ended up getting arrested,